quick. You should say hi to everyone because I don't know if everyone's met you.
Oh, okay. I think I lost my
I can see your face and I love it. So just say hi.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I'm in Northern Arizona, Joanne Abney.
Yeah. Shalom.
So,
Agents should network with you because sometimes you have referrals down in the valley.
well, and it's kind of a strange area because it's very easy to step outside of your board easy up here. When someone's looking at a place, I've run into that too, because Payson's a different board.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's a very interesting area.
Well, I know people are jumping on. Oh, Stacy's saying hi. There's Liz. There's
Hi.
Stefan.
Hello.
Hey. Oh, the dogs. Let me shut my door quick. Okay, so I keep this in here because I never know what agents know about me or don't know anything about me. But I moved to Arizona in 1998 from Washington State. I do have a family. I have a husband and 2 children, 2 dogs. And when I got into real estate, my kids were 3 and 4, and they're in their 20s now. And even on my personal website, it talks about, it took me 12 times to pass the real estate test. I didn't even know it, but until I got into real estate, I found out I have dyslexia. So it's super fun. We opened Bliss Realty in 2014. We were just about at 100 agents, and my son just got married, and we're still doing real estate. So I love real estate because as much as it may start out the same, it never ends the same. So each person is different, each client is different, each transaction is really different. Even though we have the same forms, you may be negotiating over different things, or there's different inspection items, or lo and behold, the loan's throwing a kink in things. So I like that you've got to work through and problem solve, and that I never take no for an answer. So there's always a way to push through. We're going to talk about septics. And if you have not been there when a septic's being pumped, it stinks. So let's talk stinky. We have more septics out in Arizona than you'd be surprised. So what is a septic? It treats the wastewater from your home, from a property, any property that's not connected to the sewer. So septic tanks come in different sizes, and they hold about 1,500 gallons of wastewater. So if you're wondering wastewater, think of showers, toilets, your sinks, dishwashers. That's all waste. And they're typically buried between 18 to 24 inches below the surface in the ground. And they're supposed to be marked above the ground. You'll see a little, well, I have pictures and stuff. So you shouldn't park on them. You shouldn't stand on them. You should have them marked. If not, then you will have to pay a septic company to locate those. And that fee can really depend. And I have that I have about 20 plus sites. So just hang tight. Okay. Septics in Arizona are surrounded by either a leach field or sit on top of the leach pit to allow the effluents from the septic tank. And most tank sizes are selected based on the square feet of the home, numbers of bathrooms, or the amount of people living in the property. And if the homeowner, remember, if they're going to add on, or if there is a guest house and there's currently a septic tank, that current tank may not support any additions. So you may need to add an additional septic. And septics can run anywhere from 8 grand to 20 grand. It really depends. It's going to depend on the soil, and different parts of Arizona have different soils. It depends on the company, it depends on trees. So those are just estimates, okay? I'm just going to say this right now, a septic inspection certification is required, and I have the rules in here on a later slide. But what is that? What is a septic inspection certification? The septic inspection is a complete, thorough checkup of your septic system. So a company is going to come in and they're going to examine the entire septic system. They're going to pump it. They're going to do a flow test to the disposal field. And then they even have new technology within Maricopa County, so they can actually help obtain if you need a septic permit, or even if you need to locate it. So it really helps, because I've had some clients pay a lot of money to try and even locate their septic to do the septic inspection certification. Technicians are very knowledgeable. And some of these companies, and where I got this information, they can help you through the entire process. So once the inspection's complete, you'll get issued a 7-page report. That's typically emailed directly to the client. And the title will need a copy always, and sometimes the lender will need a copy. The property cannot close, title cannot transfer until you have a septic inspection certification. Usually there's a transfer fee from the previous seller into the new buyer's name, the new homeowner's name. They estimate about $50. And all this is negotiated on the AZ Realtors on-site wastewater addendum, which we're going to pull up quickly. This report details your property information, the tank status. It identifies the disposal field method, any reports, whether the status of the septic system is functional, non-functional, if there's repairs needed, any suggested repairs or concerns. So, and this is the company that I had listed in here, TKS Contracting. It is recommended that you complete your home inspection first and then have the septic inspection completed. That way, if there's any issues with the septic, you can address those and stay on closing. You know, if you're going through your home inspection and something's funky with the house, you don't want to keep paying and outlaying funds. The seller does pay for the septic inspection certification unless you negotiate for that. So this kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. So these things should be sticking up, and I'm not checking the chats or anything. So if you guys have questions, just interrupt me. But you can see where it takes the water from the house, the wastewater out into the leach field. Over on the right this is what it's like. They put a giant hose down there and they pump all the wastewater out and sludge, and it stinks. It's a stinky process. If you haven't been to one, go. So you can experience it firsthand. And for them to even find the top of the septic, if it's not marked, and a lot of the older septics aren't marked, they'll use water and soil if they don't have the equipment. It's pretty interesting. So this is the wastewater treatment facility addendum. Okay. Can you guys all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So when you're writing, this is going to go with your offer because it should be disclosed from the listing agent, and we'll cover that also, that there is a septic. So buyer, seller, property address, assessor number, and the date. And it says the following terms, conditions hereby contract, I mean, we can go through this and you guys can also read it too. I never change a single thing on this. In fact, I really don't tamper with the contracts at all. There's a reason why, and it says seller shall have the facility inspected, and then at seller's expense within 6 months prior to close of escrow. And this is the law, that it will be inspected and pumped. So if they've had this done 6 months prior to escrow, they can just show a receipt. They can give you all that paperwork, and that's okay. Don't change the terms in here. Don't change that. Because you may need an extension, or you may need to move up closing and you've just tampered with this addendum. Don't change and make this as is. Don't do anything because you haven't had this inspected yet. You don't know that there could be a leak, that it's not working, that there's tree roots growing through it, that maybe it can't get repaired. So cost could be in the thousands for repairing, or it might need to be a new tank altogether. Okay. So disclosures, the sellers have to disclose items to the buyer, repair costs. And it says the seller will repair up to 1% of sales price or purchase price. Don't change that. Don't change your numbers. Don't do anything because you haven't gotten there yet. This is in your offer. So you don't know what you don't know, right? At the bottom, this is the transfer filing fee. So if you want to be generous, the buyer could pay it. I mean, you can ask the title company what they're going to charge your client or the seller for that fee, or split it. So this is up for negotiations, but everything else is the seller's costs. The seller needs to do that. So if you have a listing coming up, make sure that they know of these costs, right? Make sure that maybe they get it inspected. You've done your CMA and the houses should get an offer and close within a couple of months. Then they could go ahead and get it pumped and certified. You know, if your CMA is showing at least 6 months out, then I would wait, because they're going to probably have to get it redone again. Oops, sorry. So transferring the title inspection, I got some base costs, $275. Based on how big the septic is, getting it pumped and certified could be up to $500, and I've seen it even more. Digging could be $100. Cover replacements, $200. So digging could be location, just some estimate costs. And you can call septic companies and just ask. You can even go online, put in addresses and get some estimates too of what you need. Do you need to have the pump, the septic tank pumped? Yes, unless it was pumped within the last 6 months. It will not be possible to see the conditions. Does the yard need to be dug up for the inspection? Yes. This is always. So if your seller or even the buyer, prepare them. But the septic company should put everything back, rock, soil, everything. It's not going to look like it did originally. And if you have concerns, take pictures. But it should go back to what it originally, at the best it could, right? The septic lids have to be inspected and removed and cleaned, and the filters. Most of the time, the leach field is not dug up. You can tell if there's a problem in a septic yard if the ground is really soft. You might even be able to see a lot of water build up. You might even smell something. To test the leach field, water is introduced into the septic tank prior to pumping for about 10 to 15 minutes. So electricity does not need to be on, but water needs to be on. Just because you can't visually see issues inside the house does not mean there's something wrong with the septic underground, right? Even though water's coming out, there could be leaks down below in the ground. And it depends on how old that septic is. So common issues are broken or cracked lids, the roots coming in, which we see that, you'd be surprised. Missing or broken baffles, and the system literally not leaching. And then I just went through that. Electricity does not need to be on, but the water does. So pros and cons. If you grew up within the city, then you've probably lived in a home with sewer, right? You can see the sewer drainage in the streets, and you get a bill from the city. But most homes within county limits, county islands, a lot of the custom homes, they're on larger acreage, horse property, maybe rural areas, they're on septics. So this was an interesting fact. I didn't know that, but 1 in 5 homes in the United States are on septic. Self-maintaining with proper care, a septic system lasts actually for decades. Lifestyle choices like conserving water, limiting the use of bleach, and being careful of what goes down your drains, that's what will protect your septic. So it's a little different than having a sewer. The success of a septic system is only as good as your drain field. So compact soil in the area, due to cars driving over it, tree roots, groundwater, saturation, that's all bad. If you have a blockage in your septic, this can cause waste to back up into your home. And with a septic tank, you know where that waste came from, obviously. In a sewer system, that can come from anywhere, from anyone. And that's going to come into all of your tubs, sinks, toilets. So if the septic breaks, it's only going to come into one area. So good times. Environmentally friendly septics are. They're designed so if a leak happens, that it only happens on that property. So if the sewer leaks, it's heading out. It's going everywhere. And that's not good. You got a lot of bacteria. So septics do not need Riddex, but it's interesting. It does need healthy, I don't know, I guess they call it a maintained system will break down the solids and create a healthy flow. So it depends on how often you're using your septic. So if it's like a second home or a vacation home, that's really not good. Then they may need to add things to the septic to ensure that it's going to be healthy. It has microbes in there. And you just want to make sure the microbes are healthy and functioning, if that makes sense. A septic, if it breaks or leaks, that's you. If the sewer breaks, that's on the city or the government. So pros and cons, yeah. Some of the home warranties will cover septics. So if your client is purchasing a home with a septic, make sure they get septic coverage. And the price does go up, but find out what they cover. How long does a septic system last? Decades, depending on how you treat it and how many people are using it. For instance, there's septic toilet paper, and then we have regular toilet paper. And you can check with the city and see what they recommend for septics in your area too. Some people will have their tanks pumped every 3 to 5 years. So your gray water and black water will go into your septic. So things like cigarette butts, diapers, wipes, sanitary products, paper products, toilet paper, everything you think of, this is going to destroy the healthy bacteria in your tank and should never be flushed or go down the drain. So they give you a list of what can go down and what cannot. The seller selling a home with a septic tank is required, I'll say it again, required by statute to provide a certification by a qualified septic inspector at least 6 months prior to the close of escrow. And then I have the rules in here. The septic report of the inspection requirement cannot be waived by contract. I'll say it again, cannot be waived. It's required by law. And this is required in Arizona. If the seller intends to sell the property to a buyer or anyone else, a septic report must be completed. Let's see. Oh, okay, so I have some questions. So you guys do have to participate on this. Thought this is fun. As part of the offer, the buyer asks the seller to provide a septic report of inspection, providing that the septic tank was in working condition. The seller countered by removing the septic tank certification requirements. When contacted, the listing agent advised the buyer's agent that the seller would, under no circumstances, obtain a septic report or of inspection before closing, because the septic tank is located under built-in planters and is very difficult to access. May the seller refuse to provide a septic tank report of inspection? What do you guys think?
No.
You guys are quiet. Come on. Only Joanne's going to answer.
No.
That's right. Oh, where'd it go? It should be no. I wonder if my things, got out of, oh, here it is. No, the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality requires that within 6 months prior to close of escrow, the seller shall deliver a septic tank report. If the department issued a discharge authorization for the on-site wastewater treatment facility, but the facility was not put in service before the property transfer, an inspection of the facility is not required. So as long as it's been built and it's in place and in service, that seller has to provide to the buyer all the information. So let's see. Okay, under the AAR on-site wastewater treatment facility addendum, the seller agreed to pay for repairs up to 1% of the purchase price to correct any deficiencies in the septic tank. The septic tank inspection report says that due to massive leakage, the septic tank cannot be repaired, but must be replaced. The cost of replacing the septic tank is less than 1% of the purchase price. The seller contends that under the addendum, the seller is only required to repair the septic tank, not replace the septic tank. Does the seller have to replace the septic tank? What do you guys think?
Maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
I know I had it up there. Yeah, probably. So if the repairs will not correct the massive leakage in the septic tank and the cost to replace the septic tank is less than 1% of the purchase price, then the seller probably has to replace the septic tank. It doesn't matter if those words are in there or not. Buyer and seller enter into a purchase contract and the wastewater addendum. The property has a septic system. An inspection of the septic reveals roots growing into the septic lines. Who is responsible for the removal of the lines?
Seller.
So,
Yeah. Per the lines, provided the cost of the removal does not exceed 1% of the purchase price, the seller is responsible for removal of the roots. If, however, the cost of the removal does exceed 1% of the purchase price, the buyer may immediately cancel the contract or agree in writing to pay the cost of removal. If the buyer refuses to pay the cost of removal, the seller may cancel. So a little bit, I know I kind of went through, I wasn't sure how long this would take us because I have a lot of slides. There's some communities in Mesa that are 55 plus. They have an HOA and they don't. The one with HOA is on sewer, and the one with no HOA is on septic. And the interesting part is George and I actually were contacted by the previous client, and we did not represent them. It was never disclosed to the buyer agent that it was on septic. So the listing agent didn't disclose it. So the buyer never knew, title never knew, no one knew this property was on septic. And so the buyer bought the property and then the septic failed. So there was a massive lawsuit. And I believe the homeowner is a veteran and disabled. So it pulls in other parties, it pulls in the past parties. Title really should have done their due diligence also. For us, it's hard to tell. How are we supposed to know there's a septic or not? It's up to that homeowner. So that's going to come into a disclosure lawsuit is what would happen.
Mara,
Typically. Yeah.
Mara, wouldn't you have some inkling to look for a septic system or to ask about it if city services or aren't available, or if it's on a county island or something like that?
It's so Dreamland Villa is actually the community. It's not on County Island. So
yeah, sold there. Yeah.
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 But there's no liens. There's no septic liens. It's just, there's a disclosure, and title. I don't even think title really would know, except for they get the wastewater addendum.
Yeah.
So, and we only know because we get the listing on the MLS Plano. Hey, there's a septic here. So depending on the areas you're looking, and if it's on county land, county island, and out in, it's not in city services, then that would be a red flag. I would start to ask questions. So using your 10-day inspection period to really investigate that property, for sure. What other questions do you guys have? It's really not up for negotiation. The property can't close. So
Mara, we can't have a situation. I really, in all the years that I've sold real estate, I've only handled one listing with a septic tank. And fortunately for me, the buyer's agent knew a lot about what to do. So sometimes you see sellers, especially in the last market we had, wanting buyers to waive things like, the appraisal contingency, waive the inspection. Is it legal at all for a seller to state in the listing that a buyer is expected to either waive well, I guess you can't waive the sewer inspection.
No.
That's, can they insist that buyers shoulder all the financial costs associated with the inspection and repairs?
You can ask, buyers can do that. You would just, on your purchase contract, write and identify those lines and say the buyer is willing to pay, the 1% or a flat number.
Okay,
I do not recommend it. And if I was a buyer's agent, there's no way I would pay that because it's never been inspected.
right.
I don't know what my client's walking into. A new septic could be literally 20 grand. And that's just that's not all the pieces and the manual labor, or that could be included. I don't know. I'm not a septic company. So, I mean, you're signing your client up to assume these financial responsibilities without it being inspected. A seller, the seller can write whatever they want and ask for that, and they may not get that in an offer. So, you can advise your seller on the market and what kind of offers you think they'll get, or how it should go down. And again, it's your client, so you can put it out there, see what bites you get, and then change it. But I don't
Well, yeah, like
recommend it.
Mara said, I wouldn't recommend it either. Like I just actually had a buyer buy a house with septic. We just closed like a week and a half ago. He bought the house as is. So we sent over the Benzer, no repairs, accepting the property, 0 inspection period, which I also would not recommend, but I've done it twice and only because of certain circumstances, but don't do that either. But in this case with the septic, like we didn't waive any of that. And we still had the septic addendum and saying that the seller has to pump it, pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously the listing agent had no clue because we were getting close to closing. And I'm like, I need the septic report. Have you done the septic? She goes, you bought it as is. I go, yeah, but per the state laws, you have to have a septic and it has to be in working order in order to transfer title. And then she's like, oh, oops. And so they did that, and there ended up being repairs. I mean, they weren't like super costly, but I think the seller ended up doing about 3,000 in repairs, and they didn't realize that they were on the hook for that. So people really aren't aware of how septic actually works. And, could have been bad because this house was a tear down. The seller bought it to tear it down and build a new house and sell it. And then he just had to meet projects, whatever. My buyer wanted to live in the house for now. So definitely needed that septic to work. And I'm sure when the seller bought it, he probably didn't even care. I don't know, but I would definitely not waive things on septic. You never know what you're going to find in the ground.
Yeah. I typically, when I represent the seller, I mean, this is on my listing presentation. I'm already talking about it if the property has septic, and then I'll schedule it out, but it won't be until after the inspection, the home inspection, the 10 days, and after they've done their appraisal.
Yeah.
So, because you don't want to do it and then it go back on the market.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, Mara, is that when we bought this house, it was tough to get them to move on getting it inspected because it had fallen out like twice before.
Yeah.
So it is that little 6 months ahead of time is a little bit difficult to get it to happen during an inspection period, for sure.
Now, if it's brand new and it's never been used, it does not need to get pumped and certified. They can show documentation that it's brand new with a brand new house, but if it's being used, they don't know it. You think of it like an FHA or VA appraisal. They want to ensure that this property is safe and sound for the buyer. So ensuring that, someone's not going to get sick. I mean, I've had E. coli, you guys, you don't want to get sick from E. coli. So having a leak in your house, having wastewater in there or in the yard, like that's not So they're just trying to ensure that, I mean, that's in the soil forever. So, you just don't want that. And so just making sure that it's pumped and clean for the next family to use, it's good. But depending on how big your family is, you need to make sure that septic will hold it. And that's why I put in there too. If, I had a family in Cave Creek purchase a house for their family, but they were going to convert the garage into a guest casita. And I said, well, they've already got water running here for the horses, but we're not talking toilet, shower, sink, whatever you guys are doing for a casita or dishwasher. You may need to put in an extra tank. And there's smaller septic tanks. I mean, depending on what kind of septic tanks you want, they could be a couple grand, just to take the stress off the larger one, the main one. So we should do a class on water wells. That's fun.
Definitely.
But I mean, when you're starting to sell like mobile homes, the large custom homes, quite a few houses, you're driving around in Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, you may not even see it, but a lot of those houses are on septic. North Mesa, Central Gilbert, parts of Chandler, a lot of the horse property, Queen Creek, Northern Mesa, Northern Arizona, Cave Creek, parts of Phoenix, Scottsdale, and then where Joanne is, Sholo, all those areas up there. So, yeah. Do you guys have other questions?
When you buy a house, Mara, is it possible to find a home warranty plan that will cover septic, provided you do the inspection?
Yeah, most of them, I send out, I think Lisa, like 10 or 15 different home warranty companies, and most of them have septic options. So you just let the home warranty know that, hey, just like you say, hey, I need roof coverage or I need pool, spa. This one has a septic, but it'll go up probably close to $1,000. Probably double it, I think.
Yeah, and look at what they cover, because there's always going to be some ifs, ands, or buts type thing. Because just from my personal experience, when I had a septic in New York and we had already moved back and I had renters in the house, we didn't do it, but the septic started backing up into the house, and the tenant called me. And so when they went out to pump it and whatever, they said that there was a bunch of like grease floating on the top, and you're not supposed to put grease down the sink when you have a septic, which we didn't do. So the question is, were my tenants doing it?
Yeah.
Or was it the previous owner before I bought it and it just took this long? I don't know. But because of that, it wasn't covered by the home warranty, because it was being misused, finding all that grease in there. So just sometimes they won't cover it with a home warranty.
It's almost like an RV, if you kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
So RVs have rules like what you can and not put down, where the gray water goes, where the black water goes, where, what you can actually put down the sink, and absolutely no food. But probably comparing cooking with gas versus electric, once you get used to it, it's just another thing. So,
yeah, my husband took my garbage disposal away because he's OCD about our septic.
yeah.
And so they had one, and that's kind of his line of work. Not septic, but engineering stuff. And so like, no, I'm taking this away from you.
Yeah.
I'm like, but did you know, fun fact that Lisa may remember from the board meeting, they don't actually take the sewage away when they pump it.
Well, they can't clean it, all of it, because then your bugs would not be happy in the septic.
Yeah, and so I didn't know that. I thought like when they came with the truck, they actually took it away
They
and
clean it.
they put it back
Mhm.
for the flora, and I didn't know that. So
Yeah,
I'm glad I know
it
that now.
stinks. It
Yeah,
stinks
it's
bad,
gross. Yeah.
but yeah, but I don't really know how they fully work, and I don't want to. I have no desire,
Why?
but I've sold a lot of properties with septics. So, I mean, when you start doing it, and depending on price range or where they're looking, I mean, in Maricopa, I mean, Casa Grande, Coolidge, Florence, you guys will be surprised if it's not a brand new home. And then, I mean, not even, you can talk about the sewer and your water pipes. Depending on the older houses, your clients probably should get an inspection of those pipes. Because the city is not going to fix issues when they're in your house. And a lot of it, if it's from the city line up to the house, they're not going to repair it. So they do deteriorate and roots grow through the pipes, and yeah, it can be a mess. So some of my clients, they like the no HOAs, historic homes, and you've got to look at the water lines and the sewer. So yeah, may not be septic, but the more information you can give to your buyers, they're adults and sellers, so they can make educated decisions. And that's our job. We've got a couple more minutes left. Marco, you want to say hi? Marissa? You guys have questions? Hey. I went through a lot, like fast. I just wasn't sure how long it was going to take me. I kept finding more information. So yeah. But if you guys have questions, always reach out to me. Always reach out to Lisa. When in doubt, never change the paperwork. There's no need to. It's there to protect you. So, always ask questions before you do. I would never take a septic as is either.
No.
But that's just me. Can you guys think of anything else?
Not me.
Fun fact, there's a really fun wastewater facility off Greenfield in Gilbert. So when I went through Mesa Leadership, we toured it. And it cleans the wastewater and recycles it for Gilbert, Mesa, and Queen Creek. Queen Creek got added to it. I think there's 10 or 12 people, humans, that work there, and the rest are computers. But there's, I forget how many stages, maybe 7 or 8 stages that clean the water, and it's all bugs, different bugs. So the water goes through different stages of bugs, and the bugs eat and clean the water. And then the last part is the lights, bleach the water. It's pretty neat. So if the temperatures get off at all, it'll kill the bugs, and then the water is not clean. So it's very, very controlled facility. It's the one time I've ever been excited over wastewater. It's a neat facility. It's really neat. And it's modeled after a facility in Germany. So pretty cool. Yeah. So septics and wastewater.
Sexy.
Yeah. 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 We should do a class on water wells because those can be hectic. I've had one that's really hectic and Lisa's experienced that with me. So
I sold an old house once in South Central Phoenix.
mhm.
During the inspection, the inspector actually found an old well under the house. The
Wow.
house was built up. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Not, yeah. But weird things happen with wells and septic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you could be like a group of people, and on a county island, and this happens all the time where the city, they reach out to the homeowners and they're like, they'll ask them, do you guys want to become city? So county island means you have to pay for fire. You don't have city services. You don't have 911. So, and hopefully we're talking to our clients about that. So, you know, but their taxes would go up to get the city services. So they would install the sewer, they would install and connect the houses. They would get fire and police. So a lot of homeowners that are on the county islands don't want that though. So they're on either irrigation or water wells or septics. So, yep. All right, well, I can let you guys go. It's 2:50 and I think we've chatted enough. So I will upload this into Sweet Assist. And again, if you guys have questions, let me know. It's just overwhelming probably on your first one, but after that, as long as you're just aware of what happens on the seller side versus the buyer side, then you know what paperwork needs to happen, and then it moves forward. Okay.
Thanks, Mara.
Yeah. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.